Alright, how are we doing? How are we doing on this fine evening? So, I have some tunes on. I'm feeling good. It's gonna be a good evening. Yesterday was a bit weird, especially when we had some, problems with what we were doing, but today it's gonna be a good day. Let's get into it, right? So, what is going on? So, well, what I kind of got to do is go into this file here, types. I think I made it type, make types.redscript, okay? And I'm going to show you guys what I've been working on. So there's a problem in redscript like this. Something like health.stuff.x. It's quite hard to find out what that type is. And especially when x doesn't have a type, like it could be an integer if we want it to be an integer. If x doesn't have a type, then, well, it's tough to find out what that type is, especially when you're working with a non-type language. And a language like Python, if I were to call something like enumerate x, and x wasn't a list, you would get a non-iterable error, or something like that. Basically, that doesn't work in redscript. So if I had something like a method that returns a string, or an object, yes, an int, and it just takes in a parameter which it wants it to be an int, right? And we say if y mod 2 is 0, return a string, and then else will return a number. Yeah? So we actually know, we could deduce a compile time that this is a string and this is a number, but what we can't deduce a compile time is what will be returned. So imagine I wanted to call another function y, and this will take in strictly a string, or it will return, sorry, return a string, or return a void, do stuff as a void, I guess, and it will take in a strict string, so it must, p must be a string, and I message at p. There's a problem with that, and that problem is, well, if I were to call x like this, and I get a value, so my val returned is equal to x of 4, yeah? And then I call y with the value. Well, what if this 4 wasn't deduced at runtime? What if it was something like the player's current health? Yeah? What about that? Well, there's no way for us to say definitely whether or not this will work or not, because the function strictly wants a string. Why? But value returned here is a type union, which could be string or int. So there's type disambiguity, or whatever word you want to call it here, and it is annoying. So what I'm going to do today is migrate redscript to use strict types. So that's what we're going to be working on today, and I should get it done in like 30 minutes. It's actually not that difficult. So what I mean by strict types is all functions denoted with the method keyword should have a type, a return type, and all variables should have a type associated with them. So let's get into that. I'm going to go down to my bytecode here, and we'll go up to our toRBC function. If we go up to var parse, this is what we got to change first, right? The colon here. So the token we're currently at must be called at the index of the token after the variable name, okay? So this must be a colon now. Basically, That's all good. Yeah. But we can't have an equal sign anymore. There you go. We have a dot, we have a semicolon, and we have a comma. So we got to rearrange what's going on here. If the variable doesn't exist and the current token we're looking at does not equal to a colon, then we need to comp error with a return value and saying syntax error, a variable must be expected type, I guess. And we will return null pointer. So that's going to work for us there. Now what we can do is actually just take out all of this code for making the type, like so. Whoops. So, as you can see here, missing a bracket. As you can see here, this is our type code, and a variable cannot be reinitialized with different types. So if we don't exist, how would I make this if tree work is my question. So if we don't exist, then we need an else saying if we do exist, yeah, so then what we can do here, see this if statement down here. Sorry, that's how it's supposed to do. So we'll say if doesn't exist. There. That's how it'll work. So you can see here, we can get rid of all this. Don't indent it. What's wrong here? Expected a statement. Just some bracket problems, I guess, due to the macros. Yeah. So if the info isn't a colon, we can put here all of this inside an else, like so. And we can set our variable stuff like so. Again, there's always a problem with brackets here. So the eval expression should work fine. So we can actually just get rid of this, and we can say, you know, whatever we're at now, we'll say if you can actually get rid of this switch, I'm assuming. So the switch here, if it's a semicolon, then we can just we actually don't need to do this. We can take this entire switch block, stick it out here, like so. Let me just take a look here. So if we have a semicolon we can actually just return variable. There's nothing else for us to do. If it's an equals, and if we don't need terminate, yeah, we can, if we don't need termination, we can return variable. And if equals, we can just break. And then we go down into the equals, which is eval expression. All of this, like so. I think. What did I get rid of? This bracket all the way down to this bracket. I see. So all of this code, I see. So we're gonna get rid of this and this and this and this. And we can go all the way down to all the indented code and unindent that. No, never mind. We can keep the switch statement in. Perfectly fine. Perfectly fine. Okay, so we're actually, this code is fine. This is never used. We can get rid of that. Just realized something. My microphone was kind of quiet, but it should be better now. Yeah, should be better now. Sorry about that. Get rid of the dot. That should all work fine. Let's test it out. Let's build it. Let's go up and make a type. Well, we'll go into our types file. We will make a variable with an int and equal it to 4. Sorry, should not do that yet. What we need to do is make sure if a value is being assigned. Hey man, how you doing? I'm doing good. What about you? Thanks for stopping by. So if a value is assigned, we need to deduce what type that value will be, right? Here, right here. So I don't think I have that implemented. The expression dot, well, a non-operational result. Here, this code is what we need to look at here. We're guaranteed that there will be a type. I'm doing good. Currently arguing with Arch Linux because it won't install the right fucking drivers. Linux, I have it on my laptop. I was there with a friend and he helped me do it all because it is an absolute nightmare. Yeah, like Windows is nice because it does it for you, but there's a lot of, you know, shit features with Windows, and I think the pain of installing Linux is a lot more worth it, you know. I got Manjaro, the distro. It's actually really nice. I used like a Sway, I think it was, the window manager, and it's brilliant. I can just interchange between whatever I want whenever I want, and yeah, pretty much. It's just really fluid. I use Arch. I'm always an Arch user because I like fucking my system up to only have the reaction of, well, this is a new error. Today the error is missing exFAT drivers. As in like FAT storage. Like you're missing storage drivers? My God. Good luck, man. That is not good. Maybe it's not storage, but it can't mount FAT32 file systems, aka my boot partition. It can't mount FAT32 or exFAT. That might have been something to do with your installation. Can't mount. Are you sure? Did you format your boot partition into that format? Or did the installer do it for you? Or neither? Because I think you need to do at least one of those. So give me a second. I'm trying to think here about, how I'm gonna. If the operation is singular and is not an object, and we don't have an operational result, then we're looking at just a constant here. And then we can say if variable type info, I'm actually going to get rid of real type info soon enough. But we are referencing that up there, yeah. So variable type info dot type ID does not equal the value. It's always something to do with the installation. I don't use an installer. I install Arch manually without Arch install. Well, why? Why in God's green earth would you do that? My goodness, bro. You don't use the installer? Do you like pain? I don't know. I'm joking. I'm joking. So if this doesn't equal the value dot type, now of course there's going to be a mismatch because this is an int 32 and value type is I do in fact like pain, the pain of wondering the fuck does this error mean. I mean that is the best type of pain. Just like no the bit because you know you're gonna get that feeling in an hour where you figure it out, and that's like better than winning the lottery or the Euro Millions. Like yeah, we know that feeling is like sometimes you put yourself through pain because the pleasure will be so much worth it, you know. Damn, I sound like Gandhi. So I think there's a problem here because the type ID on the left-hand side of this, where do we... Let me just find its references real quick. Yeah, but apparently according to Arch, I do not have IOStream. I don't have XIVT frogs drivers, nor do I have Python installed. apt-get will solve that, no? I don't know. I haven't used Arch, so. What do we do? Type ID is equal to type ID. Where the hell am I at? Type parse. Program.object types. Yeah, or it's the info. It's equal to the info of the token. So if it isn't equal to the info, so we know the literal, one second, we know the literal value is a constant, and therefore the ID of the constant, type ID of the constant, is stored in info as well as in dot type, but dot type is not uint32t. Okay, So then if that doesn't exist, then we can comp error return, I'm assuming. We can say syntax error. This is cool. You guys should look at. Be right back. I'm gonna install Arch real quick. I'll come back to the stream when I get a usable Linux installed and sign into Twitch. Yeah. Good luck, man. Thanks for stopping by. Appreciate it. Godspeed, brother. So, what are we doing here? We're gonna say cannot assign constant of type we'll pass in we'll return null pointer and we'll pass into the VA args value dot info and then variable type info dot type ID. We'll say of type to variable of type. There we go. So that's good for constants. Now, here, this result, you can actually see what the result is that we're going to get by evaluating. So, we can do result. What do you call it? Well, there's a problem here because result is a variant. If we take a look at RBC value, it's a variant of a constant, a register that can be used for maths, a variable, or an object, or a list, or just some random thing. And some random thing isn't used here, so we know that that's fine. Here, we will have to say, okay, well, let's switch result.index. So we'll say if it's a constant, well, we can say if variable type info dot type ID does not equal to RBC constant reference C is standard get 0 of result C dot val type, I'm assuming. What's val type? Oh, it's a token type. Shit. C dot C dot. Oh, damn it, damn it, damn it. Well, I actually want to take a look at the Lexer code for when we find a type. So, for example, wait, maybe it isn't the Lexer code. Yeah, it is. If we find a type, the info is going to be the keyword second of So if we go here, keywords is the Redscript language keywords, which is all this, Jesus. Which we know, as you can see, int is 1, float 2, bool 3. So int, float, bool, string. Int, float, bool, string. But over here, the type ID of a variable will be set in the type ID of the object type or the info of the token. Okay, so we can just static cast this to an int. That's fine. C.valType. Then we can comp error, our syntax error, and we can say this exact line. Easy, 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 easy. Now, if we're dealing with a register, so some maths, for example, if it's an operable register, then, so we get the register first. And we need to dereference it because it is actually a shared pointer. And we can say, if the register is operable, an operable register is when can we get the register's current value? Okay, so if we can't, I'm just gonna say rs or comp error or syntax or rs not implemented error, and we'll say non-operable registers aren't supported for typing, and we'll return null pointer. So we'll just get back to that in a minute because I haven't implemented those anywhere. So if the register is operable, oh, I love this song. Then if it's operable and I guess we don't have a number, so and the variable type info dot type ID does not equal to int type ID. Int. I never actually put this in here. So this is integers, floats, which is 2, booleans, which is 3, strings, which is 4, list, which is 5, object, which is 6, and any, which is 0. Actually, we might have to get rid of any support, unfortunately. I can define this as selector keyword ID, and that's typo 7. So we can just do red script int type ID, int keyword ID, then comp error or, and say syntax error expected integer expression as it is being assigned to assign to integer, to variable of type integer. There we go. If we're dealing with a variable, well, what can we access in the variable to make sure the types are the same? Well, we can get its value. No, we just need to compare their type infos. So we just say if variable dot type info dot type ID doesn't equal if it doesn't equal the variable type info dot type ID, then we will error saying syntax error cannot assign variable. What's going on here? Why is there an error? Oh. Of different type to variable. If we are dealing with whatever 3 is, let me see. 0, 1, 2, 3. It's an object. We can skip that for a second. If we're dealing with 4, and we just say if the variable type info, yeah, we can just copy this. Actually, this could be the default case, I think. Instead of value, we'll just say actually I need to warn here saying no type checking for objects as of yet. What I need to do is instead of saying, yeah, there's no default here, unfortunately. Doesn't equal red script list keyword ID. Cannot assign list constant list to variable of different type. Okay, so that should be type checking done. I'm curious to see if this works. And we can probably build this now. What's wrong here? Oh, yeah, just a comma. I'm curious about functions though, because we do. Oh no, we do lists. We do selectors, and we do objects. What do we do when we hit a function? Is it up here? Ah, here it is. So we actually have to implement this as well, unfortunately. Have to keep edging the command prompt. So here we get the name and we get the function, and we say if f second, we need to get its return type. There we go, return type. Oh my god, so many pointer accesses. Okay, I need to implement some functions here. So an inline bool equals um what I can do is return other dot type ID is equal to type ID, and other dot array count is equal to array count, and and other dot optional is equal to optional, and other dot strict is equal to strict. I think, yeah, so we're comparing everything. And then I want to do something where does it equal a uint 32. We'll just do an unsigned int type ID, and we can just return type is type ID, and we don't have an array count, and um that's a problem here, and that problem is that if we're checking if a type equals another type, well, would an int question mark equal an int? Well, an int can be converted to an int question mark, but an int question mark cannot be converted to an int. So what up here we're gonna have to do is an inline bool can convert to type info other. We're gonna do all of this. Yep. And what we're gonna have to do is, well, if we can convert the other dot optional is equal to optional, or so we're saying so this type can convert to this type. So if this has if this is optional and the other one isn't, we can just say or other dot optional and not strict. Well, actually, I think it would be just as good as just doing that. I think. Oh, how'd it go, man? How'd the build go? So if the other is optional and we're not strict, then we can convert. But if the other isn't optional, let's do brackets like that. If the other isn't optional, yeah, so or are optionals equal? Well, actually, if the other one is strict and we are optional. Oh god, this is way too much. How's it going? Went okay, currently waiting for my other packages to install. Whew. Thank god. Actually worked. Yeah, it's going good. So I'm assuming you're new here, so what I'm doing right now is I'm making a programming language for Minecraft, as the title says. So it's got some nice niche features to it. There's a Discord if you want to read the docs. It's right below my my Twitch, Discord, GitHub. You know, there's not lots of nice things to read about. But there's actually all my language gets compiled into Minecraft commands that can run on any Minecraft world. You know, and it can actually do some mathematical visualizations. It can do some really powerful things. So I'm, you know, thinking where can I go with it now. I've hit a roadblock today. What I'm doing is I'm actually converting it from loosely typed language to a statically typed language because I've had so many roadblocks by trying to make it not type safe, you know, and just let the user do whatever they want. And determining types at runtime can be quite tricky, especially when, you know, if you were looking at a block in a Minecraft world and you wanted to get its position or something, or you wanted to get some piece of data that the block holds. I don't know what type that is. There's no way for me to deduce what type that is. So what I'm doing now is converting everything to have mandatory types like x is an integer. It must be an integer, you know what I mean? And then I can implement conversions and stuff. Having problems with auto, I'm guessing. And yeah, static is probably better. Yeah, like I just never kind of it never crossed my mind. Having problems with auto. No, there's gonna be no auto, I don't think. Although maybe I'll do auto. It's cool. Yeah, it could look good. But my problems now is just implementing this really. Now I got it to work hopefully for variables, but what I'm doing now is, well, here I have a structure called RedScript, which is the name of my language. Like I said, you can check, all the all the previous docs and everything on the Discord. Come join, hang out. We got lots of guys helping me with this monstrosity of a project. So the RedScript type info, as you can see, any type you make in a programming language has an index, an ID, how many array counts it has, what dimension it is in arrays. And then I have some other thing in my language, whether or not a type is optional or strict. So an optional type is like in C# where with a question mark, and that means that it can be a number or it can be nothing. It can be null, right? And then I also have a strict type, which means it must be of that type. It can't be a union type, like something like int or string. And I'm going to implement that later on, but right now this operator, used to work when my language was loosely typed, but now it's kind of deprecated and obsolete because it doesn't do as much. But I'll have plans for it in the end. Made a language a while ago, wasn't really good, and I had a lot of problems with uint and doubles because there was issues with my memory manager that just used a bunch of memory. You should give it you should try and hop back on it, to be honest. Like, I've been in development for programming languages for maybe 2 years. I love making compilers and lexers. I'm such a nerd when it comes to it. And, how do I explain this? Like, I have had 7 iterations of another language I was making, an interpreted language, and I gave up and came back to it 3 months later, gave up, and 3 months later I came back. It was crazy. And I loved every bit of it. But I think you're right, like, there's always too many problems, and the project gets just way too big sometimes. Like, right now, I think I'm at like 5,000 lines of code or something like that. It's pretty big. And just one file here, the RedScript bytecode, is 2,500 lines long. So, pretty bad. Anyway, what I'm doing now is I'm trying to write some functions to obviously make sure that what we're assigning to variables and what we're assigning to function return types and everything are equal. But obviously we have some ambiguous types because some types can be optional with the question mark, like down here. I can up the font if you want. With the question mark here. And as you can see, basically the int question mark can be converted to an int, or can't be converted to an int, because that means int or nothing. But just an int is, well, it has to be a number, right? But the type int can be converted to an int question mark. So these implicit conversions are something I haven't been introduced to ever before. And I'm kind of looking at it and being a bit scared, like how in the hell am I going to make implicit conversions? But I'm crossing that bridge now, and I think I might have a way of doing it. So what I'm doing here is can convert to. I'm making a function called can convert to. And I'll handle conversions, as long as the type can convert to, I'll handle them fine. But we just need to verify that what we're assigning can be converted to. So for example, another type information, the types must be the same to convert to. The array count must be the same. And then, if this object can convert to the parameter must be optional, and we're not strict. So we're just, an int, and then it turns into an int optional. That's okay. Or we're both optional, so but you can't have strict and optional. So eventually I switched to interpreted language. Had to go line by line, check for functions. I had it save code. That was functions into memory, and then go line by line through a file and load each line into memory, read it, and then unload it. Did work. Decently slow. They're always slow. Interpreted languages are so slow. Like, interpreted languages are, I mean, look at Python. You know, you think it's fast, but one one integer takes up 24 bytes or something like that. One number takes up 24 bytes. I mean, everything is slow. So I wouldn't be, how do I say it, you know, judgmental. Like, it's a language. As long as it does what it does, people don't really care about the speed for a lot of things. Speed comes in mainstream languages, and we're not really making mainstream languages, are we? So other optional and not strict. Now, if this is false, then either we are strict, and if we are strict, then we're not optional. This bool, I'm sorry, I'm staring at it. Python does use 28 bytes for an int. It's crazy, isn't it? It's like, what? You do not have to be that overkill. Jesus, 28 bytes. Because some people want to store numbers that are thousands of numbers long, but I don't know. I don't even want to comment on it. They probably have some niche way of explaining why they use it, but it's above my pay grade, I guess. And then I'll just say here, or are optional values equal? So that would cover the case of int question mark to int question mark. And then I'll say, or are stricts. Strict equals strict. It's a bit strange for me. Yeah, in C++ you can make a double that uses only 8 bytes. Yeah, C++ is brilliant. It's my favorite language. Like, I write whatever I want with it because it's so good at optimizing everything that even, you know, my shit coding style and choice of functions and, you know, excessive use of lambdas and these nice features just don't affect the performance at all. I really, really like it. I don't know about you, but it's just, you know, something I've loved always. So, what am I going to do about this strict? I'll just do this. Or other dot strict. Oh my god. Is equal to r strict. Okay, so that works. And the equals with just a number for type. So an unsigned integer for type. We just make sure that it is the type and it is the array. And now remember, this is just a type, so int does equal int question mark. Okay, int does equal int question mark. So we can say, we don't care about the value of like an int question mark. Sorry, int does equal int, and int does equal int question mark. So that's fine. So we don't care about optional value, and we just say we're not strict. I think, because just for future reference, I think int cannot convert to an int strict. Can it? Int convert to an int strictly? Oh yeah, it can, yeah. So we don't care about the value of strict either. Okay, that's fine by me. So yeah, any questions, just ask. Like, I think I'll have this compiling in a minute, and I can show you around what actually happens under the hood and how we get this all to work. But for now, I'm just fixing things up. You know, quite simply. So right now what I'm doing is making sure that the return type of a function does in fact equal what we're trying to assign it to. So we have our variable, and we can do if the return type okay, hold on a second, I need to, but Python was unoptimized. I made the interpreter in C and C++ and tried to use calloc and realloc to optimize memory and use free. Although that made it slow with extra checks, so I made it some add. So you need to do some int.add, and it would use realloc to increase memory size. So you used functions for arithmetic? That's interesting. I'm doing a lot of that actually in my language right now. I'm doing that with lists. If you want to append to a list, you don't do list dot like list instance dot append. You do lists the module append. You have to go into a static function that doesn't tie into the reference. Just because there's no object functions in Minecraft, unfortunately. So I also have one more problem. That being the fact that, well, a type will equal if it can be converted to as well. So it can be all of this, or can convert to type, like that. And I'll do all this, or can convert to other. Down here, I'll have to make an instance for an unsigned integer type, and I'll just say we'll just do other is equal to other is equal, so the other type that's being passed in is equal to our type ID, and then we have to say our array count is 0 because we're not taking into account array count. I believe I was mainly setting it up where it would do something similar to int pointer sum int. Yeah, okay. For making variables, and then would reference the variable names in a list with its value. No, don't worry, I get what you mean. Then at the end of the script, it would iterate through the variables and use free to unload them. Well, you could just use the stack. I mean, no, yeah, I think you're right. What language did you write it in? C++? I made the interpreter in C and C++. Yeah. So C++, I don't know if you know about smart pointers, but they're so useful when trying to, use malloc instead. This is why I use C++, is because everything I use is a smart pointer. I mean, I could look at here. If I just look for standard shared pointer, there's 3 shared pointers here, If I go into here and look for standard shared pointer, there is 28 instances of a shared pointer. They are so useful. They are genuinely the savior instead of using malloc. I don't know if you know about them, but they are so, so good. Sorry, haven't finished this up. Bear in mind the language was about 3 to 4 years ago. I don't remember the full thing, and back then I wasn't the best with. Yeah, I mean, yeah, of course, it comes with time. It comes with time, like, for sure. Oh, hold on. Give me 2 seconds. 2 seconds. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, it comes with time, really. So, if we can convert to another integer, then the integer type, the type ID, must be the same. We must have no array count. No, actually, what we can just pass in is Yeah, and we don't care about strictness. Okay, so this, you know what? Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Int can go to int question mark. Yeah, so we don't actually need this function here. Okay. Grand. All right, so we can just call equals. If the return type equals variable type info, and if it doesn't equal that, then we can comp error or, and we can say syntax error return type of function does not match expected expressions expected type. At the time I could have set up a buffer using char buffer, some int is new buffer, but I'm not the best with memory. Yeah, see, look, like, I did do C for a while, and I didn't enjoy it because, now, don't get me wrong, I love C, but I don't like, yeah, I agree, buffers and allocating and keeping track of all that shit, it's too much. So I just love using smart pointers. I'm gonna go now and sort a few things out. I'll follow and join back. Ah, thanks, man. Um, yeah, like go enjoy yourself with your distro. Hopefully it is working fine and there's no more errors and the packages are installed. Thanks for tuning in. If you want to, see the development of this, it'd be best to join the Discord. There's a few guys there that love making languages as well. You can chat to them. Um, and we can keep you updated there. You can catch the streams, but it's all up to you. I just, appreciate you for tuning in. C doesn't have classes and it's generally more manual. I understand. Thanks, man. Thanks so much. It really means a lot. I understand why you'd prefer C++. Now, look, the famous saying, like C++, it makes it easier to ride a car, to drive a car, but it also makes it easier for the car to spontaneously explode. So C, on the other hand, you do kind of get nicer errors or no errors at all if you get a seg fault. So that's bad. But C++, you make one wrong mistake with the standard library function and you spit out literally 900 errors and your fucking command prompt runs out of memory to display it. I mean, it's crazy. Or even the characters to display it. So C++ is the best of both worlds, I think, but it definitely has its cons, C doesn't have classes, but then again, it does have structs, and structs is enough. Like, I don't think I use, like, I could make this entire project in C as long as I had smart pointers. I think that's the only thing I'm using in this entire project. C doesn't have much errors. Yeah, it has a lot of errors, but C is more manual and it's more automatic. I agree. Yeah, I agree. I agree. I think that's why a lot of programmers prefer C to C++, is just because about operator overloading and some this ambiguity and hard to read code, and I definitely agree with that. But I believe in good C++ code which doesn't rely on operator overloading for most things. Some operators, like with brackets, just press F12 on your keyboard and step in and look at what it does. But other stuff like converting a person class to a boolean, whoa, hold on a second, that's a bit too much. Has way too many features in my opinion. Still, const expression, stuff like that, very nice. Very, very nice. So another thing I have to do down here is type info dot equals. If it doesn't equal value dot info, like so, and then down here, if the type info dot equals, it doesn't equal, sorry, I'll reply in 2 seconds. Doesn't equal and equals x, and it doesn't equal that, so we can just implement this here. type info equals var type info doesn't equal and dot equals that, and it doesn't equal that. Brilliant. Okay, so that should work. Let's build it. I hope to God it works. Anyways, have a good day. I'll join back next week. Thanks so much, man. Thanks so much. Enjoy your programming and your distro. Really appreciate it. Peace. All right. The build time here is pretty bad. This is what 5,000 lines of code gets you. Horrible build times. Anybody know how to fix that? I don't. Ugh. If anybody's in the chat and they're confused about what I'm doing, just send a message. Let me know you're a sentient being, and I can explain it. Let's take a look. So right now what I'm doing actually is implementing type safety in my language. So what I'm going to do now is try and purposely get errors from my compiler. Wow, this is longer build time. What the hell? Okay. So the file that I'm working with is types. So this should be fine. Hopefully. Cannot assign constant of type -1 to variable of type 0. Already great. Already loving what's going on here. Okay, let's go fix that. For some reason, it's saying that. Cannot assign constant. If the variable.type info. Okay, so I'm just going to go into GNU debugger here and break at rbc.cpp 556 run examples types.redscript testing. The type info is ID of 1 and all of that, and value.info is 0. So there's a mismatch in types. There's a mismatch in fucking type. So for some reason, if I go to my Lexer, actually no, I'll go to my constants file. You can see here the int keyword is given an ID of 1. Right, it's given an ID of 1, but it still has an info of 0, and we assign info in Lexer CPP here. Oh no, that's for keywords. Aha. Okay, well, we can just update our... We can update our Lexer a bit. If we find a number, we can just say token type T is that, and we can say... we can pass T in here, save us the computation, like that. And The third thing is info. We see we pass 0 right here, but it should be decimal, then redscript float keyword ID, else redscript int keyword ID. Simple. If for a word, we don't pass in anything, but if for a string, we should pass in, instead of 0 here, we should pass in string keyword ID as the info. What else? Selectors. Here's selectors. Oh yeah, is selector here. So we'll just say here as well, is selector literal? Well then it is gonna be redscript selector keyword ID, else it's going to be a word, so we can just say 0. That should fix it. Just had to update the lecture. That's the first time I've been in that file in a very, very, very long time, so just had to get familiar with it, you know what I mean? Ooh, warning, narrowing conversion of okay. Does it want me to literally cast it? Like, sure. So the compiler isn't screaming. I mean, it doesn't make much of a problem, like, to me, per se. I will be back when this compiles. Alright. Try it again. Cannot redefine variable. Cannot redefine variable. Remove type to reassign. Give the variable a new value. So case how the hell did it get to here? If we have an equal sign, where the hell is our break statement? Where the hell is our break statement? This looking extra sussy. Bro, tell me what that means. I know what it means, but like, how is it sussy? It's a programming language for Minecraft. That's like your average cup of Joe, no? What? Is this the semantic analyzer or what am I looking at? So, what you're looking at, obviously this is my command prompt for compiling, but here is, yeah, it's the compiler. So what this function pretty much does is parses variable usages. And right now, let's take a look at the function thing we're trying to compile. This is the most simple thing ever. Like, if we go into modules, you can see, oh, this compiles perfectly fine in my language. But what I'm doing now is actually converting my language from being type loose to type safe. So the integer must be provided here for the variable to compile, right? And if it was just x equals 4, well, that would fail because x needs to be defined up here like that, and then we define it down here. So that's what I'm doing. And what I was just writing there is fixing an error where it said we couldn't redefine the variable, even though we're not redefining the variable. You know, something's going on. Why is the whole UI increasing in size but not in font? Yeah, I tried to increase it so you'd be able to see the one line, and it, like, I hate Visual Studio for that one feature. So I try to keep it at this. You can tell me if it's too hard to read. Maybe you're watching on a phone or something. So there we go. First error is actually working. So expected type. Never mind, it's not working. For God's sake. Expected type. Here's the error. And so if the current isn't this colon and it doesn't exist, then we expected type. But what we did before was, you can see in the file, what we did was we actually did create the variable, we just didn't give it a value. So let's take a look at, let's analyze this function where we did, and is this like cross-compiled to Java or what? So funnily enough, unfortunately, no. So what this actually does is compiles, once I get this working, I'll show you some examples of how it works. But it compiles all of this, the user high-level code into Minecraft commands. So you can run it in a command block, you can run it as a player in your world, and you can create crazy, you know, mathematical creations or maps or plugins or anything you want. So it's all vanilla Minecraft, you know, and it functions as its own language. Now, don't get me wrong, it will not be performant. So it's more of a nice niche project, and I don't think people should take it seriously for now. It is just me trying to add features, get it cool, and hopefully some YouTubers or something might see it and really like it. But if you stay tuned, maybe join the Discord below. In a week or so, maybe 2 weeks, once I've gotten this almost ready to release, I'll release a video on how I made it and how you can use it and implement it and have fun with it, you know? But that's the gist of it. I'm a bit confused here because if the variable doesn't exist, then we do expect a type. because we try to get the variable. This is stupid. So let's analyze this when we did have the type and not the value. So, okay, so we do the type parse. Oh, wait, hold on. Hold on. If it's not equal to colon, else, then we know it is equal to colon. Yeah, it is equal to colon. But look, if the variable, if this if statement doesn't pass, then we're not going to down here. So we don't need an else statement here, basically. Wait. We do. Oh my god, this is confusing as shit. Okay, wait. If I just unindent this, so this is the type stuff, and we'll just make a skip type go to here. And we just say go to skip type. So okay, we have to wrap this in an else. Is that gonna work? This code at first glance is ultra confusing. Looks like you're trying to do a lot of lexing and AST analysis in one place. You might be right on that front. So this file is, you know, it's not too big. It's not too big. Just a few lines. Look, and there's no functions. It's just one big chunk of code. Well, there is functions. This is just one big chunk of code. So if I actually go out of everything here, I'll give you a little rundown of everything inside this function. These are a bunch of lambdas that help me do what I need to do. So this is the entire function, 2 RedScript bytecodes, so an assembly version of assembly. You know, it's an intermediate form between the high-level code and the outputted commands. So we initialize some variables, some flags and stuff. And then we have some lambdas for going token by token. I'm assuming you know how lexers work. And this isn't the lexer, this is the compiler. So a resync would just resync where we are if we handled some... If we, you know, exited a function, came back, we need to resync where we left off. Advance, peek, match, and follow, some nice util functions. And then some lambdas for parsing types, parsing variable usages, parsing calling functions, modules, objects, and loops, which I haven't implemented. But Alexa produces tokens, and you are checking if some string is equal to colon or... Yes, so, like I said, this isn't the lexer, this is the compiler. So if I go up to inbuilt, lexer CPP, you can see the lexer that I've written is only 500 lines long. So stage 1 of the compiler is to lex everything, you're right. And then stage 2 is to pass those tokens to that function I just showed you there to convert everything to a tree. You know, look at all the tokens as a tree together and then convert it to assembly. And then finally we get that assembly, custom assembly language, and we convert it to Minecraft commands. So here you can see in Lexer CPP, sorry, did I not show you that? Yeah, it's only about 300 lines long. And this is where you convert everything. So while we're advancing, we check for tokens, we parse strings, we parse keywords. This is our Lexer. Bro, I understand this is a compiler, but the Lexer produces tokens. So why do you refer to any kinds of source code strings in the compiler? I do. Oh, you might have seen... Sorry, you might have seen... Where was I? You're saying here. Is that what you're saying? Why am I comparing to a colon? Yeah, I see what you mean. Okay, so this is just an integer comparison, right? And yeah, so at first glance it looks crazy because you're right, we should be using token types. But what I made is if I go to my token file, A token has a representation, a type, and some info to go along with it. If I go into a map of all my keywords, you can see we're making a token of type, a type definition, and then its information is that it's an integer type definition, right? So with this kind of helping hand, I can distinguish between what's what straight away. And this isn't the best example of it, but what I can do is do a keyword, do a token. Can I go to this? Here's all the token types, right? And you can see there is a symbol. Yeah, and when it's a symbol, it could be a colon, a comma, or anything. But as long as I know it's a symbol, then I can compare it with the with the integer info that comes along with a token. It's just kind of preference, you know. I did it for readability purposes. I wouldn't want to write out 900 symbols for each comma character that I use, you know. I see it's a bit roundabout. Yeah, you're completely right. It's a roundabout way, but I think when I wrote my Lexer, I did not want to write out keyword comma, keyword colon, keyword semicolon, keyword, you know. I do have some separated for that, you know, the important not keywords, sorry, just comma, colon. I wouldn't want to type all those out. I do have important ones, however. Line end, for example, right? Line end's really important and shouldn't do two comparisons. It should just be able to be determined straight away. And that's a semicolon. So some of them are just not as important, you know, and I can compare directly with their information instead of comparing with their type. And it just looks more readable to me, you know. Maybe not to someone who's just popped in on the stream, but when you've been writing this for a month or so, it's nice to keep it separate. Do you kind of get what I'm saying? What if you have two symbols like greater than or equal, or yeah, that's when I have to employ a token type. So excuse me, I need some water. So you can see, one sec. Oh my goodness. So right now I don't have support for greater than or equal to right now, but I do have compare equal, compare not equal. I do have a double colon for, which is that token right there. Like if I go look at the modules file, double colon is a keyword and it's called module access. Then you have to make it separate because it's more important then, you know, it's not just one character. You are comparing a string and you want to stop comparing strings. So it's working fine, but you're not very uniform about it. Sure, I guess, yeah. At the end of the day, it will do absolutely nothing to the performance, in my opinion. It's just a bit of preference to distinguish, you know, because these colons, commas, and everything, they don't deserve their own token type. Because if you ask me, the colon already takes up the same amount of memory as the token type. So why not? Why would I make another definition for something that is already defined as a character literal? Just the way my head works. Maybe I'm stupid, but maybe you can see where I'm coming from? I don't know. So it said here expected type. So we fixed that, I think. Go to skip type. Now this else statement, let me just verify. If the current info isn't a colon, so we're not parsing a type usage, and the variable doesn't exist, well, that's bad because we need the type. Then we can go to skip type, which just goes straight down to all of this. Then we can say else if it exists. So if it is a colon and we do exist, then, well, we can't say it's a different type now. We have to go along with the type that it was initialized with. And then if it is this and it doesn't exist, we can do all the type parsing. Okay, that should be fine. So let's build. All right. That should fix that error. I can see where you're coming from, but I myself did that at my uni. I would be banished. Really? Oh God, what uni did you go to, bro? Where are you from? I know it looks bad, but I don't think I'm a bad programmer. It's maybe just a bad design choice that I just kind of kept with. Poland. Oh, nice. Chest. My best friend's Polish. Uni's called Wut or Vut. I don't know how to say it. Damn, really? I'm from Ireland. So I guess we're a bit more forgiving over here. um, but look, when it's your side hustle, when it's your project that you're working on, don't be too concerned with doing the right thing. I believe like you'll enjoy it the way you make it, and the you know. Oh, let's see if that works. Fuck's sake. Well, why doesn't that work? Hmm? X is equal to 4. Expected type. What's the problem? What's the problem here? If the variable doesn't exist. I'm a perfectionist. Yeah, a little bit with me too. So ideally, I would enjoy if all of the tokens were proper types, but I'm not trying to pick on you. It's just trying to find out if you somehow skipped the Lexa or something. Nah, like, don't worry. It's no hard feelings, man. I get what you mean. I'm a perfectionist as well. Like, as much as I want to say that you should enjoy the mistakes, I don't a lot of the time. I'm like scratching my head. I'm like, oh, isn't there a better way to do this? And I try to stop myself from doing the non-performant thing or the not most optimal thing. But over my years of programming, I think I've kind of just learned to live with the fact that now that I've hit a certain level of programming, I know I'm not doing it the worst way, and I'm still doing an optimal approach, and I shouldn't be hard on myself. You know what I mean? I think, taking that into account and working with a language as optimized as C++ plus plus or C, your choices aren't, with my experience or with your experience, your choices won't be very impactful on performance because you know what you're doing to an extent. Now, I don't know what I'm doing to someone who was around in the 80s when the language was made, but that's only a minuscule difference, I think. And especially when I'm making a compiler, nobody really cares how long it takes to compile the code. They care how long it takes to run the code. So my design choices aren't as crazy. Sometimes you need to be hard on yourself because you will eventually work with other people and you will appreciate being able to read their code without wondering what's going on, vice versa. I agree. I've yet to step foot in the industry. I'm only first year of uni, so yet to cross that bridge. I definitely agree. And that is, when you're working in a team, it's a different environment, obviously, because you need to have the same design style choices to keep it readable. Yeah. But as long as you understand a project and you don't need to share, then so you're just getting roasted for stuff like that, maybe. You're just before. Yeah, I guess so. So you're just before getting roasted for stuff like that. Like, listen, I love programming, but I think the industry is a shithole. And I think they take the love out of the hobby, you know? So when I, you know, step into the working world, maybe I don't think I'll enjoy the programming industry that much. And I think what will happen is I'll find something else to do and keep this as my hobby, maybe. Um, but I've been programming for 10 years or so, and I love the feeling of just sitting down to program with no expectations, with no deadlines, just enjoying the flow of writing code, you know? And I think the industry is going to strip that away from me, which I can live with. It's fine. People have to adapt, and I'm not saying it's the worst thing in the world because it's definitely what we should be doing on our own, as developers because it's optimal, isn't it? But I like to treat this as a hobby and I try to have fun. So if someone tells me, oh, you shouldn't be doing that, you shouldn't be doing this, as long as, they're right, if I haven't given it to someone. Thanks for the follow, man. I really, really appreciate it. You have no idea how much I appreciate it. But as I was saying, um, if someone else says, oh, you should be doing this, you should be doing that, you know, I'll agree with them if I'm sharing the code with someone else, because you're definitely right. Readability matters. But if it's me in my own world reading my own file and I know my entire code base, I'll be a bit more forgiving. I guess that's kind of the gist of it, you know? And everybody is. When you're making a small little project, you really couldn't care if you're going to put in using a namespace std, you know? Now, I obviously, as a slight perfectionist, will care about using that, because I know if we went on Stack Overflow with that one line of code, our whole bloodlines will be insulted by that one dev. But I don't know. It's just all down to preference, you know. Since I put most of my code public and have some coder friends and appreciate them reading my code and getting feedback, I always stay in the line. But yeah, for some private, especially very short stuff, I tend to not care to. Yeah, that's a problem I have, is I'm a little bit scared because this code is all public if you want to read it, by the way. And it's pretty bad. You know, it's not my finest hour when it comes to programming. Don't get me wrong, I think a lot of it is good, but a lot of it needs revamping before I release. And this will release, this will be available for you to use, and it is available for you to use right now. You can join the Discord, learn how to download and use it. And the Discord is just below the Twitch if you want to hang out. Lots of guys in there talking about languages. I had some other guy follow earlier, and you know, really nice community we're growing here, and it's really brings a tear to my eye to see that. But I agree with you, like, I have this really big fear that I will get backlash for putting this code up. You know, I think it's my first big kind of project, and I've never really had that weight on my shoulder to deliver something. But I reminded myself again, I'm writing a compiler, and people don't care how a compiler works. They care that it works, and that it works to produce optimal output. So reading my code, I'd like to get suggestions. But backlash, I think, is you know, bad, because a compiler will be fast anyway. I think, like, you know, I'm writing my code, it takes 30 seconds to compile because I have so many lines of code, and maybe my includes aren't good enough. But you know, I'm not going to blame C++ for that. I'm not going to blame Microsoft, like, damn, it's some shit compiler. Do you have tests? And what about formal grammar specifications? Like, no tests, no grammar specifications. Oh, formal, like, for my language or for how I write the code? Like, as in for the language? Yeah. It's in the Discord. It's outdated now, but no tests. Well, look, I know I say no tests, but look at this folder here. These are my tests. For every feature I implement, I try it every way I can to fuck it up and to mess with it. And, you know, for example, like functional ifs, all of this to make sure it completely works perfectly. And another one, for example, modules. Yeah, this is everything you could do with modules, and as long as this code will still run, it's gonna work fine, you know. And you can see we're distinguishing between functions inside and outside of modules, which are, it's just an alias for namespace in C++. So I write my own tests, and I don't implement them with my building process. I don't do every test one by one. I'll run one of these files and make sure they compile every time I add a feature. So there obviously is tests. I don't just forget about it. I make sure it works perfectly. For the language, yeah, you can see I can show you actually. For my language, if I go to redscript.surge.shell, you can go to it as well. You can look at it's a little bit outdated now for the Redscript documentation. So obviously how to install it. You can go to the Discord, you can write a hello world, everything. Hello world folder shows you how to use the command, shows you how to run it, and then you can go into the language where right now we just have variables, functions, objects, types, and modules. So for example, a function, you know, all of this, little function decorators like external, inbuilt, CPP, you know, inbuilt Functions defined, stuff like that. It's all there. Whoops. Oh my god. What did I just open? Man, we had to write a language for one of our uni projects and interpreted one, and I had thousands of lines of various tests for edge cases and stuff. But at the very end, at final consultations, my supervisor still found numerous minimal test cases of it failing, especially with function context and stuff. Okay, you're scaring me, bro. Maybe, okay, look, what I'm doing right now is my process that I just told you of just going through every file. But what I'm gonna do before I even touch the release button on GitHub or the commit for the release, I will write 1,000 tests. I think I will, because I will be as scared to release something, you know what I mean? And of course, you'll be scared and you'll write 1,000 tests because you have to submit that as an assignment. It's part of your grade. But right now, I'm focusing on getting it working, keeping my motivation high, and then I'll get to the end and fix all the bugs. It's a horrible way of designing something, but it's just only a tiny bit. I'm doing that only a tiny bit, you know? Because I know 90%, 99% of the programs people are going to write are going to work. And I know what isn't implemented to warn them that isn't done, you know what I mean? So that's kind of how it goes. But we have been yapping too much. I mean, seriously, why is this error happening? Expected type. Expected type. Let me stop yapping now. I know, right? Like, the error is saying, okay, obviously, let's just drag open the file we're using. It's literally 2 lines. This is embarrassing that this doesn't work. Define an integer and then equal it to 4. Now, because we've defined it, we can definitely equal it. But it's saying it's expected a type because it's thinking we're redefining it. I think it's something to do with this else statement. Basically, we call var parse, and if the current token is a colon, is not a colon, and the variable doesn't exist, so that case right there, then we say expected type. You got some easy way to output the AST? Not really. Not really, no. The AST is fine. Like, I don't think I've implemented an abstract syntax tree that well. And I know I keep saying that over and over and over. I didn't implement that well. But my abstract, there's no tree in memory. What I'm using is these 5 functions to mimic a tree. So, for example, here, like, if we hit a word, then if what follows is a symbol, then it's probably a variable usage. If what follows is a open bracket, it's probably, you know, it's 90% of the time a function call. If it follows a module access, well, we're going to access a module. You know, there's the tree in a while loop, kind of. I don't think it's necessarily bad, but it can help to understand the control flow. I agree. But these 5 functions make it really easy for me to understand, you know? I think it looks quite nice to say, okay, word, if follows, open bracket, if follows module access, helps me to, you know, the tree is not my problem at all right now. It's just the logic I have in these functions. And I haven't had a problem with the tree at all, so. Expected type. But this says if the current isn't a colon and the variable doesn't exist. So what happened in the first one is up here, okay, the colon did exist, int. So this all got called, right? Then we go down here, we get a colon, and wait a minute, why in God's green earth is there 2 switch statements here? Yeah, that's just stupid. I think I copied that from somewhere. That's the whole reason it isn't working. Because this code worked fine before, but I had to change it. Why don't you use the debugger? Because I know it's just a logic error. I know, like, I use GNU Debugger for everything. Segmentation faults, impossible things I can't solve. But this I can solve. Because this entire function has literally been written 3 weeks ago. It works perfectly. I'm just modifying it and moving it around to only support when variables are statically typed. And I did that with functions as well. And the reason this is causing an error is because I just messed around with that snippeting. And I think I solved it a lot faster than I could with the GNU debugger, because I don't know, it's stepping through the logic only works when you're really stuck, you know what I mean? My compile time is so bad. Why no CMake? Never learned it. Never learned it. Oh, fuck off. I have no CMake, I just have a bat file that just makes it. There's no libraries or anything involved. So what? How the hell? Okay, it does all this, and then it goes, okay, the current. Oh. So something's fishy here. Why didn't I call advance here? Unexpected end of file error here. Why? Okay. Skip type should be here. I think that code was here. It just got snippeted away because no matter if, okay, if the current is a colon. Oh no. You can see if the current isn't a colon, then we're at something we shouldn't advance to. But if it is a colon, we should advance, I think. So, right? Am I tripping? I mean, well, I have to step into type parse and see what it does. So type parse will advance, get the info, and then we'll return. So we'll always peek the next token. So, yeah, we have to call advance here, I think. No, we don't. The error is coming from here, expected type. I think you're right. Maybe we should use the GNU debugger, but I think this solves it. Okay, let's try it. Because right here, okay, if it isn't a colon, for example, then it should be like an equal sign. Like here it's the equals, not a colon, it's an equals. So we don't need to go to the next token, right? So we just go straight to skip the type. And we go looking at whether or not it's an equals, a colon, a comma, or something, whatever, right? If it's if I had to think before every time I parse something, I'd never write a line. That's why grammar specification is key. Nah, like I know this looks really bad, but this is I have to go back to the drawing board because I wrote this entire thing on the fact that it was type loose, or, you know, you don't have to specify types. So the reason this is failing is that x is 4 in the old version of RedScript would actually create the variable x to be 4. And x:\int equals 4 would also create it. So I have to snippet everything around, all these little blocks of code, to make it only accessible. X equals 4 must be a reassignment operator, and x:\int is a creation operator. Do you get what I mean? Okay. Warn, unexpected token after variable usage. So you can't advance. We cannot advance. Okay. Let's go into GNU Debugger. For fuck's sake. Break. 470. What file? What file are we using? Okay, so p current info. Can I cast that to a char, please? Okay, so the current info is a colon. So next. So we type parse, blah, blah, blah. Yep. Okay. So before we advance, can I just print the dereference of current? Yeah, so, okay, that shouldn't run. Okay, that's my bad. Yeah, you can see. Okay, so the colon worked fine. If the semicolon, if it not variable. We're saying if not variable. But what I should do is if not exists. Okay. That was our problem. So it was all working fine, and I'm just schizophrenic. So I might just call this and wrap it up here. I've been streaming for a while, and I am up quite early tomorrow. But hopefully this works so I can go sleep. Thanks for tuning in anyway. This isn't the end. I'm going to just keep coding for another 10 minutes or so. Tomorrow I'll pull a request to CMake list to the repo. Bro, do not do that. Okay, tell me the pros of CMake. What does it do? Doesn't it just organize your project? There's no, like, compute... It doesn't speed up compile time. Does it? I just never heard it. What? What? No way. All right. Make the damn pull request. Make the damn pull request. Oh my god. Okay, unfortunately I do have to go in about 5 minutes, but I'll be on tomorrow to implement CMake. I did not think it was that powerful. I thought it was just a way of organizing how you compile your files. Oh my god, that would save me so much time. Object.md yields 404? Bullshit. Oh. That's because it's not in the language yet. It shouldn't have even showed up. Yeah. They haven't been implemented yet. I created the file, but it literally contains nothing. Or I must have deleted it because of what I'm doing now. I can't remember if I did. Cannot assign constants of type -1. So value.info is... I don't think it's -1. Let me just do a bugger again. And we will break at rbc dot e or cpp 547 run examples. What am I running? Damn it. Types, redscript testing. That's the name of our world. Now I want to print variable type info, just to make sure it's working. So you can, oh, type ID is -1. Type ID is -1. Hope this stuff works on Linux. What do you mean? Yeah, of course it works on Linux. I compile it on my laptop on Linux. Why would it not work on Linux? I'm a bit confused. I don't know the code, lol. Yeah, no, there's no Windows specific library stuff going on here. Okay, we gotta lock in Shadowman. We gotta lock in. We gotta find this error, and then I can sleep. The type ID is -1. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna break at 400, which is where we parse types. So next. So there you go. The type ID is 1. Okay, so next. So 1 is the name, 1 is the ID of an integer. Mm-hmm. This is all working. Why did it fail? See, it's type info 1 now. Continue. And now it's type ID of -1. What? Why? It's working fine. There you go. Value.info has the type because it's an integer literal, which means it's quite literally an int. What? Why did I not just now notice the Minecraft ambient? Bro, it's so so soothing to listen to. It's like my favorite soundtrack of all time. Come on, you cannot diss it. It's really good. I don't know the error. I'm gonna start your repo and do some stuff. Thanks, man. Jeez. I appreciate that a lot. I'll talk to you soon then. Yeah, thanks so much for tuning in. I'll have this all fixed by tomorrow, but appreciate the follow. And yeah, just stay tuned. The repo will be fixed. We'll be looking good for release, but right now it's just a lone developer doing whatever the fuck he feels like. But some support would be to have a schedule. It's usually so my schedule is 1 or 2 days every 1 or 2 days. It's always I'll send a message on the Discord, but as of now, it'll be every day if I can, towards the end of the day, and if it's not, it's every 2 days. But you'll get a notifications whether or not if you oh, you did. I think that's you that joined the Discord. So, um, but yeah, that's basically it. So I'm gonna fix this tomorrow because my brain isn't working. I've had a long day, very long day. Don't trust the profile. I had to hide from some people. What do you mean? Oh, yeah. Your Discord name? Factorio name starts with DM. Damn. All right, take care. Cheers, man. Thanks so much. I'll talk to you soon. Anyway, I'm gonna end the stream here. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you guys soon. Thank you.